right, so our second speaker tonight is going to be Mr. Harith. He comes from Verizon Media Group, and this is a unique perspective. He's actually been using this new technology for a while now. So we've heard, I've told you a bit of what the technology is, and Suzanne tells us, what people plan to do with it. And Ganesh here he's actually been using it. So we're going to have a chance to talk to someone who's been implementing this firsthand and see what are they doing with this new technology and why is it something we care about, right? So he's going to share with us his experience this evening. And Ganesh, we have you on the line. I know you gave an introduction earlier.
Hey, Rick. Yeah, I'm still here, Rick.
So thank you for joining us this evening. If you want to take it away.
Sure. Rick, thanks very much for having me here. As you can see, I'm Ganesh Harithath. I've been doing data and AI for over a decade. I've been in IT for over 2 decades. But the last few years have been very fascinating, primarily because the technologies together are helping us change human experience. And today, Suzanne did a fantastic job trying to explain the fabric which will actually help us start to onboard new technologies. That way, our experience would continue to improve and be wonderful too. So I'll start to share my screen. I'll just do a quick check. I personally am responsible for a very large initiative called LEO, and the interesting story or foundation for LEO is 5G. And the reason why the artificial intelligence platform and 5G go together very, very well for the following reason. I'm just reflecting on how how human experience has changed over a period of time. When we go back to 1990s, when you type in yahoo.com from Sunnyvale versus Sydney, it used to take fairly long. Not because folks in Sydney did not have good internet connection, it's just because the distance from Sunnyvale, where it was hosted, to Sydney was fairly long. And we really needed a technology to help us improve that internet experience. And interestingly, the CDN Edge, which is an underlying technology, when it comes to Verizon Media, we have mini data centers in 160 locations across the world. And Yahoo content is cached in all these locations, which help us have consistent experience of internet. And it's not just yahoo.com. And we get a very similar experience across various websites, whether it is Target or Amazon, primarily because there's a lot of caching technology that is foundational for consistent human experience on the internet. It's very fascinating and interesting. And a few years later, 4G LTE picked up, and very naturally, we started to use a phone, and it became the smartest friend with us. And the experience changed again for the second time, where we depend on technology so much, our life experiences have changed. And now it's very hard for many of us to imagine not carrying a phone with us or not having a phone nearby, all the way from security to human experiences too. And what Suzanne started to share is primarily a reflection of now and the future. No doubt the emphasis or focus was primarily on 5G and Wi-Fi 6. But interestingly, the need for 5G and Wi-Fi 6 is primarily because of the next generation applications that we are about to experience. And in some cases, we are already starting to experience some of it, and I'll start to highlight on some of these things. Now, I would like to take all of us about 7 to 10 years forward into time, and would like to cite few experiences and then slowly start to bring us back into current and try to reflect on how artificial intelligence is changing our lifestyle behind the scene. And what I'm saying is not just about human experiences. Interestingly, when we try to take a closer look at any or all activity, in very broad categories, it would either fall into improving efficiencies, improving human experiences, or health and safety and security. And I'll start to cite some examples across some of these buckets. Now, what I envision, which has been socialized by many industry leaders, 7 years or 10 years from now, the time frame might be slightly different, depending upon how various technologies evolve. It would be very, very natural for an expert doctor from Canada performing a robotic arm surgery on a patient in Los Angeles. And interestingly, it's very complex behind the scene, but the sophistication is fabulous, primarily because of the following technology. The communication fabric, which would be 5G, or by then maybe it could be 6G as well. Artificial intelligence, robotics, and virtual reality. And interestingly, all these four technologies are evolving at a rapid pace. And there's already convergence of these technologies, and few experiments are being done on the lines that I'm explaining right now. What I envision is this example would not be an example anymore, but would be a normal norm in the medical industry. Now, 3 years from now, between 3 to 5 years from now, I'm a big believer of multimodal transportation. And what that means is if I have to go from where I live, city San Ramon, to Sunnyvale, my work location, today I take my car and drive all the way through. Highly likely I will start to depend on shared ride services. And in the future, to improve efficiency, it would be multimodal transportation. And it's no exaggeration if we start to think in the lines of, I place an order for a ride share, you get picked up by a car, and then suddenly at some point in time, you get transferred to a drone, and then you get dropped in a different location, and then you get into a car and then reach the final destination. And interestingly, it wouldn't be 1.5 hours anymore, but it would be fairly quick. And on the timeline, again, it might be 3 years, 5 years, or 7 years, but a lot of technological advancements are happening in this space. And again, interestingly, 5G would be the fabric to really make things operational on the ground, primarily to enhance human experience, and in this case, efficiencies too. Now, these are just few numbers from public websites which reflect on industry spend primarily in space of 5G and advanced capabilities. It ties very well with Suzanne's explanation in terms of where investments are going on the 5G fabric or the communication fabric. And what's happening on the ground today? And when we start to reflect upon that, there are many enterprise use cases where transformation is in play, where 5G or a fast fabric is required. There are transformations in some of the technologies and experiences where you really need fast communication, primarily because you really have to plan route. I'll cite that example a bit more in detail. And also our own personal experience where when we walk in, we want to ensure that the house temperature is naturally controlled to our comfort level based on our behavioral patterns. But even before touching upon some of these examples, interesting, when I reflect upon my own life, as I start to watch television today, I either use a button or say start, and that's about it. I go to my favorite app, and this app knows my behavioral pattern. It starts to recommend content after content, which is to my taste. And interestingly, in many scenarios, the app knows more about me than myself. And this is only because it's observing me, it's learning from me, and it is tailoring the content for my need on a given day or time. And with no button clicks, we have this experience today. And when we start to dig deep, it's powered by artificial intelligence. And my view of the world as we start to move forward, whether it is web browsing, whether it is transportation or any experience, it'll be very natural for everything to be powered by artificial intelligence. And that's where the 5G fabric becomes super important for us, because this intelligence could be deployed in different locations, but on a click of a button, or when you look at it, it should really start to respond to your actions or gestures. And this is where, though the intelligence is actually deployed in different locations, the communication fabric will help us connect all these things together, primarily to have enhanced experience. Now, on the right, very quickly, is industrial automation. And today, there are a lot of robots being deployed on site, a lot of sensors. And we don't want the motors to fail. We don't want the robots to pause. And these robots and sensors are naturally sending all these signals to an edge compute, which is powered by artificial intelligence. And artificial intelligence is paying utmost attention to these signals to provide guidance to folks on the floor shop to take corrective actions on an as-needed basis. And in many cases, it would actually predict even before the motor fails, primarily because there are precursors to that. And machine learning helps detect those things to help efficiencies within the factory setting. On the left, today we already experience autonomous vehicles. We can get into a car and it almost has the capability to drive from point A to point B. But interestingly, when you take a closer look at how it is able to do what it's able to do, it is using either sensors, LiDAR, or a camera. Doing so, it's only able to observe the 360 degrees around it. And it can look only the car in front, but not two cars in front. And also it can't plan the route and make corrective actions on its way. And to me, full self-driving is the car being able to plan and optimize the route on its way. And that can happen only when intelligence is actually deployed. The signals from the car are fed to the intelligence stations, and then a response back to the car where the corrective actions can be taken for complete autonomous self-driving, including car-to-car communication too. There's a lot of advancements going on here on the ground, and 5G is going to play an astronomical role here, primarily because from the car, there could be many ways, and one way to envision is to send the signal over 5G to the location where a response can be sent back and a car can take a corrective action and very safely and securely be able to plan the route and reach the destination. And this will be the last slide. I'll spend some time in terms of how the technologies or infrastructure is actually changing behind the scene to help us really experience some of these technologies and human experiences through drones, robots, cameras for security, and the list goes on. As of today, the primary mode of enabling application is a monolithic cloud. So you have a set of servers, you can have images or containers, but it is in one location where the application is deployed, and you can experience this application either through your mobile device or on a laptop, but it is talking to the cloud. But because of the evolution of the applications, which is demanding artificial intelligence, the communication between the edge to the deployed application, the demand is increasing and the latency has to come down. And that's where some of these intelligence have to be moved away from the cloud to the closest location where the need is. And this is where the CDN edge, which I touched upon, which really disrupted the internet ecosystem by enhancing human experience. And two, some of the examples that I cited, which really requires a lot of intelligence compute very close to an industrial setting. And these are the demands that would be met by moving intelligence to different destination locations to power the next generation applications. And as you see, depending upon the class of application, the demand is slightly different. For a robotic arm surgery, you really need an edge deployment very close to the patient and also very close to the doctor, connected by a 5G fabric. And also things like drones would be supported by 5G, and the list goes on. So this classification is at a very high level. We can actually mix and match these classification primarily depending upon the need on the ground at a given point in time. But this is how the ecosystem is evolving. But overall, it's a fascinating and very accelerated advancement that we would all live through in years to come, primarily because of the evolution of not just one technology, but multiple technologies. And the interesting fact is 5G would be the fabric for convergence of all these different technologies to either enhance human experience or improve efficiencies in the ecosystem. Thank you all very much.